This is ISIS doing in Libya what we've seen them do in Syria and in Iraq, which is take advantage of a volatile, chaotic situation where the government has essentially collapsed and then instill their own brand of vicious, radical Islam. This 39-minute video that they've put out now is all about telling Christians how they can live or die under ISIS. What they're saying is you can convert to Islam, you can pay a non-Muslim tax, or you can be killed like these Ethiopian Christians. We don't have confirmation that these Ethiopian Christians, ISIS claims they are. But there are multiple layers to this ISIS message here. They behead a group of 15 of these Christians on the beach in the north of Libya, on the Mediterranean Sea. The other group of 15 are executed by gunshot right on the southern borders of Libya, hundreds of miles away. What ISIS is trying to do here is create the impression that they are spread out across the whole of Libya, that they have control there. They've used the same media organization that ISIS in Iraq and Syria uses, trying to imply that they are spread and getting stronger all across the Middle East.
Persecution of Christians. Now, it has been an issue throughout history, from the very first century to the present day, that it indicates discrimination, oppression, and violence to those because of their Christian beliefs. Now, there are many people suffering due to this issue, and they pay the price. Now, but to understand today's problem, we need to go all the way back to the root.
Well, when we talk about persecution to Christians, it all begins with Christ. Christ was persecuted all his life, especially when he started his ministry. But then, as soon as Jesus dies, we know that the apostles, they were just crazy about the message, crazy about preaching the gospel. And the only people that they could preach to was Jews, because everything begins in Jerusalem. And that was the Mecca of Judaism. And later, we see persecution in other countries, in other areas, where there are a lot of non-Jews, like Greeks and other people. But then in the year 35, we see Stephen. He's considered the first person that died because of as a consequence of preaching the gospel. And we read that in the book of Acts. There's a lot of persecution in the book of Acts that we can read. But in the year 64, Emperor Nero, Rome catches on fire, and Nero blames the Christians. And some people say this is the reason why Paul got killed, because he was blamed about this huge fire. So 8196, it was Domitian, Emperor Domitian, known to have persecuted Christians, blaming them for problems with his administration. So they were making mistakes, and the reason why we make mistakes is the Christians. Christians were the ones to blame about everything. So the persecution from 90 to 96 through Emperor Domitian, in history, we read that it was so intensified that is one of the greatest persecution that we can read through history. In the year 201 to 211, Septimus forbids conversions to Christianity. So anybody who converts to Christianity, it was against the law. As we can see, we started from the year 30 and some, and here we are almost 200 years later, and this doesn't stop.
Now, there are many countries that have limits to religious expression, and it makes it hard for many Christians to share their beliefs. Now, we see that North Korea is the #1 country that is not allowed to exercise the Christian faith. And we see that North Korea used to be a Christian country, and it had more than 2,000 churches there. But after the oppressive ruling of the Kim family, their ideology is that every person that lives within North Korea has to pray to them, you know. And if they find any Christian that expressed himself or herself of Christianity, they are what? They have to go through prison. They have to go into labor camps. They get tortured and they get killed.
Somalia, it's the persecution in Somalia. It's because of religious issues, and in Somalia, extremism of Islam is growing, and when that happens, you know, they tend to kill all the infidels. Then Libya, Christians are attacked every single day, especially Christians that are located in areas where extremist Muslims live.
Not only that, but not too long ago, in February 13, 2025, we see how in the DRC, there were 70 Christians and they were rounded up in a church. And these people, they were in Kasanga, and they were slain by machetes and hammers. So not only is persecution only used by governments, but it's also used by extremist groups. One of the reasons for persecution against Christians is because of dogmatism. Now, dogmatism has empowered the persecution of Christians for centuries, addressing counter-arguments and enforcing rigid beliefs. Now, though through oppression and challenges, faith always endures. Christians have survived persecution not through force, but through hope, faith, and conviction. Even today, dogmatism threatens Christian freedom, but yet believers continue to stand firm. Now, social media and press have tried to manipulate the reality of many Christians around the world by making it seem that they are the oppressors, when the reality is that Christians are being oppressed. And this is proven by many well-certified organizations and governmental institutions. But the question remains right now that will history repeat itself, or will the world finally realize that faith cannot be silenced? Now, there's just one verse, and I'm going to end with this. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10.